Hi, it's Tracy from Two Rocks Tarot, and in this week's Tarot Tips and Tricks, I'm going to be talking about going professional. So, when do you think it's time to go professional? So, I myself, even though I've been reading for 28 years, I have been reading professionally for 6 years. Coming up, I think January or February. I'm pretty sure it's January next year. It'll be 6 years that I've been reading for an online company called Future Me. I probably could have gone a lot earlier, but finding outlets where you can actually read professionally too can be quite hard as well. So some of you might like to decide you'd like to read from your home. I could do that if I wanted to, but the thing that stopped me about starting up a business at home is actually having strangers in my house. I don't really like that idea, and because I haven't got the way my house is built, I haven't actually got access to the backyard, so they'd have to come into the house, like right into my house. So even if I set something up, if I built a granny flat out the back or something like that to have my own business set up, they'd still have to walk right through the house to get to it. So, it's not really viable for me to read at home, but some of you may be able to do that. You may be able to have somewhere that's separate to your living area that you can conduct business in. So how do you know when to read professionally? So like I said, I've only been doing it myself for around 6 years. And it's really on how confident you are. So one of the things that you'll have to be able to do is be able to read without consulting a book. Now that might sound really like a no-brainer, but believe me, when I've been out and about, at various markets and things like that, there was a actual shop. There's a place here called Hillary's, which is kind of like a little bit snooty, a lot of rich people live there, and there is a crystal shop there that for many years they have have tarot readers there that conduct tarot readings. And I remember when I was there once that because I had it wasn't a curtain, it was what are they called, the beads, when they've got the beads, so they had the beads hanging in front of the doorway, but you could still see straight through it. And there was a guy there who was actually doing a reading for somebody, and he was looking up the meanings in the books as he was going on. Honestly, I kid you not, and they were charging around $70 an hour, and yet he was looking up the meanings in the book while he was actually consulting a reading. So that's why I put that in there. Definitely, you need to be able to read without consulting any books whatsoever. I'm also going to stress too that not to do free readings as well. If you feel like that you need to do free readings for practice, then you're not ready to go professional. I'm sorry. Offering a service such as tarot reading has got a bit of a stigma about being paid for it. Okay, some people feel like that you shouldn't charge for readings because it's a natural gift that comes to you and you should give it for free, which is a load of crap. We spend many years, like I myself, like I said, I've been doing for 28 years. I can't tell you how much money I have spent on books when I used to buy books, and tarot decks and various other things to do with the tarot and divination in general. It would be in thousands of dollars, and that's not just in a monetary means as well. It's a time, the time that you take out to study, even the time that I take to do these YouTube videos, I record them and I edit them and I add things in that I think is going to look nice. You think about music, thinking about everything. It's your time that these people are paying for, and you should not give free readings. You really shouldn't. And a good example of this is when the company Future Me that I read for used to have this option that you could get free readings. And what they would do, and sometimes it'd only be one card, like a free one card reading. I'm pretty sure it was only the one card. These clients would ask half a dozen questions, and totally different questions, and want this one card to answer it. And they would do the whole rounds, because we have got a private Facebook group where all our consultants, we can all talk to one another and offer support, and if we've got any questions and so forth. And the same client will go around all of us. I think there's about 20 of us at any given time on Future Me. And they will do the whole rounds with every single reader asking the same questions or different questions. So George put a stop to it. He said no more free readings on the site. It's up to us if we decide that we would like to offer free readings, but he cut it out because they were taking advantage of it. And that's what you're going to find out. If you decide to set up a website and offer free readings, then people are going to take advantage of your time. They're going to ask the same questions over and over again. They're going to email you every day, or ring you, or weekly, whatever it is. But you're never ever going to have any peace of mind. I know most of us who have got an Instagram account, a lot of us get a privately message if they can offer free readings and so forth, to the point where some people actually have it in their little spiel that you have. What is it, the biography or whatever, that please do not DM me for free readings. So I don't know what it is about tarot where people think that we should do it for free. It's absolute bullshit. We spend many, many hours honing our talent, our skills, learning. Some of us take courses. We do lots and lots of things, all for the benefit not only of ourselves but for our clients, so we can give really good readings. So if you feel like that you need to do free readings for practice, then you're not ready to go professionally, to put it bluntly. You really aren't. You need to be able to read clear and concisely, answer questions that are put to you without any hesitation, without any worrying about having to look up a meaning and so forth. Okay. Also, when it comes to readings, I only do online readings, so I only do email readings. The only reason I don't do face-to-face is because I'm deaf, so I wear a hearing aid in 2 ears now. It used to be only the right ear for 8 years, and unfortunately this year my hearing deteriorated in my left ear, so I had to wear a hearing aid again. Get one for that ear, I should say. So anything with background noise for me is absolute killer. So I avoid it like the plague. So I hate parties. I hate going to the pub because I just can't hear anybody, and I have to rely on lip reading, and that can be really hard sometimes as well. So for me, I only do online email readings. So when it comes to face-to-face readings, if you're reading in like a market situation, or you're lucky enough to have a shop, where they rent out the rooms that you can read at, it's a good idea to have a time limit on it. So the way to do that is to set up on your iPhone a time for however long the reading is, if it's half an hour to an hour. And when it comes to the last 15 minutes or so, you can ask a client, have you got any more questions? Now, sometimes they will like to ask a completely different type of a questions to trip you up, trying to get, more of a free reading sort of thing, another kind of a bonus. So when you ask if you've got anything further to ask, make sure you add in relevant to the question, relevant to this reading. So you make it clear to them that you're asking if they've got any questions with what you've already read on. It's not to be a completely different question, because clients will try you all the time. So make sure you clearly tell them that when you're asking them, have they got any further to add to the reading that you've just done? Have you got any more questions on what you've just read on? Don't let them give them an opportunity to ask you a completely different question. Unless it's really, really relevant to what you've read, then of course you can. But, then you're going to go over time. So you're going to have to make sure that you need to wrap it up within that last 15-minute time frame. If they want to ask you a completely different question and you're going to have to throw some more cards, well, then you're going to have to charge them for it. And you just say, look, I'm sorry, I'm going to need to shuffle the deck again and ask the cards again and put it, make a completely new spread. So you're going to have to pay for another hour or whatever it is that that you're charging. So I myself, I have got my own website, but because it's an email, everything's done by email. I don't have time limits on it, and I don't have I've seen a lot of people say $15 for 10 minutes or something like that. I don't do a time limit for myself because I read online. I like to just have a set price for whatever it is. So like my most popular spread is a 6-month snapshot, and I charge $65 for that, and I don't have a time. So sometimes my 6-month snapshots, I might actually type out 8 pages of what's going on in a 6 months, all depending what's going on in the client's life, and depending on how it's asked, because the way I work it, I can have 3 rows. So, you could have past, present or future. Or you can have, if they've got 3 subject matters, so, like say divorce, career, children, you can do it like that. But then also you can have 3 rows of 7 questions and you can answer 7 different questions. So it all depending on which particular type of 6-month snapshot that I'm doing for them. But, sometimes it can be 8 to 10 pages, type pages of when I'm writing it out, and I charge $65. Now, sometimes that might take me an hour, 2 hours, but I will not charge any more because I don't believe, for me, I don't like having a time restriction on my readings. I like to take my time. I like to read over it. I like to sometimes sit with the cards and look at them and maybe go and have some lunch and then come back and have another look at them and things like that. So that's why I don't have a time on it. You can't do that when you're out at a market. You're going to have to be really strict when it comes to your time. So make sure you set up an alarm and don't be hesitate to say that if they want to ask another question that they're going to have to pay for another reading, because your time is valuable, and that's the most important thing as a professional that you have to remember, is that your time is valuable and you're quite within your rights to get paid for it. So don't offer free readings, okay? Now when it comes to managing your readings as well, you might want to set a limit on how much you can read for each day. So, because when you're reading the tarot, I know when I first started to read the tarot, I used to get so tired after I used to do a reading. So tired that I used to have a nap afterward. Now that doesn't happen to me now, but if you do back-to-back readings, you can get really drained, and you need to ground in between. You need to get up from your desk or up from wherever it is that you're working at. Go for a walk, clear your head. Have something to eat, have something to drink, and, really make sure you do that, because it can be tiring. So you may want to limit how many readings you do per day, all right? So, I could read all day if I wanted to, if I had that many clients to read every single, like all day, every single day. But I think it's important to have a time limit. Personally, how I manage my time is that when I get a reading now, because of the time difference on Future Me, so I read for all over the world. So I get most of my clients I think are from America. I have a few in Mexico, and I think I have a few in Spain as well. So, they're all over the shot. So with the time differences, so sometimes they hit my email when I'm asleep, and we've got 72 hours to complete the reading, and if the time ticks over, it'll go to another reader. So that's how it works with us. So when I get up in the morning, I get up at 4:30 in the morning, because my husband leaves at 10 to 5, and I make him breakfast and set him off for the day, and I stay up. I can't sleep in anymore. So once he's gone, and I have my coffee and I'll sit down at the computer, and that's when I do the readings. I find that my mind is the clearest very early in the morning. When it gets to about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that's when my brain seems to drain away, and I won't do any readings sort of after 2. I think the latest I've ever done a reading would be 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but I must have been one of those days when I was super awake. So for me, my preferred time is to read very early in the morning, and that's what you may find, that you have a particular time that you like to do your reading. So you might like to read at night time. You just absolutely love it at night. You might set some candles up or something like that and really enjoy reading at night time. Or you might be like me and like to read very early in the morning. It's totally up to you, but when you're going professional, you need to set yourself a time limit on how many you're willing to do a day, that you don't feel drained and it doesn't become a chore. Because if it becomes a chore, then you know that you're reading too much and you need to cut it down a little bit and make it more manageable. I think for myself, I really only like to do three to four readings max a day, particularly because it's email and I have to type it all out anyway. I mean, I do have the dictation thing, but I don't know if it's my Aussie accent, but some of the things that come out on the dictation are ridiculous. And because we've all heard my budgie, if he's singing in the background, sometimes all these weird letters come up on it. So it's just easier for me to type than to do dictation. So because I type it all out, I only really like to do 3 to 4 a day. And I find that that's my limit. So you're going to need to find your limit on what you're comfortable doing. All right. And even if you are like me and you read online, you still have to manage your online readings. So you still have to, you know, you don't have to get dressed up or anything like that. You know, we're lucky we can sit in our pajamas, nobody's going to know. But, you know, you have to still be dedicated. Even if it's an online reading, you have to be dedicated, because, you know, this is someone who's come to you for some help. You know, they've got a problem and they want some insight on it, an unbiased insight, and you have to be there for them 100% online, as you would do if it's face-to-face. You've got to give their utmost attention to it. So you've really got to be really particular, is I suppose what I'm trying to say. You know, really be particular. Really treat it as you would as a 9-to-5 paid job where you have to work for a boss. You know, even though you're your own boss, just treat your clients the way you would want to be treated, I suppose is what I'm trying to say. Now, of course, you're going to come across some disgruntled clients. You're going to do a reading, you're going to find out that they didn't like it. So you're going to have to make up your mind if you are going to offer refunds if the client doesn't like it. I myself do not give any refunds whatsoever, and I state that on my website, because it's a spiritual advice that they're paying for. It's a service. They're paying for a service from me. It's my time that they're paying for, and I don't offer refunds at all. But I am very, very happy, and I state that on my website, that I'm very, very happy if they're not happy to write to me, let them know what they're not happy with, and so I can look back on my reading and see if there's anything that I've missed. Perhaps even do a follow-up, another type of reading to address the concerns that they've raised, if I feel like that the reading that I didn't actually address that, which I have to be honest, it hasn't happened to me yet. I've never had anybody asking me for a refund. I've had people, I think that I can remember, I maybe had 3 or 4 clients that weren't all that happy, but that's because they didn't actually ask the question that they wanted to know. So a lot of the ones that weren't happy with it is because they didn't actually ask the question that they wanted to ask. That's why I said in my previous video about how clients lie. So that was really easily fixed. So I just answered the question they wanted to know. I just went back and looked at the reading. I didn't even pull any different cards. I just looked at the reading that I did, and once they gave me the right bloody question that they wanted to know, I could answer it, and so that's what I did. But it's up to you. You're going to have to make up your mind if you want to offer a refund, or if you're going to state clearly on your website. And I've got it right on my front page of, that I don't offer refunds, because it's a spiritual based service. And but I'm very happy to go over my reading and address anything that I may not have, that I might have missed, or that I haven't, addressed, or something like that. So make sure you have that ready for you, because you will find disgruntled, everyone gets a disgruntled client. I've been really, really lucky, touch wood, that I haven't had many. But usually it was because they didn't actually ask the question that they wanted to know. Because I think the last one she was asking about, she was asking about her love life and a date that she was going on with, I think it was between 2 guys or whatever. And then that was actually about a date, that's right. And then when I gave her the reading, she came back and said, oh no, we haven't even been on a date yet. So, I based this whole reading on a date, and she hadn't actually been on a date. So that's what I mean. So usually when it's disgruntled, it's because it's a miscommunication. It's because they haven't told you exactly what they want to know. And, sometimes you have to be a mind reader. You've got to look between the lines, exactly what it is that they are asking. So keep that in mind. Now, of course, sometimes you're going to draw a blank as well. Now, I'm lucky because I read online. If I draw a blank, I can just leave it for a little bit. Go and do some gardening or whatever like that, and come back and look again. But if I do draw a blank, if it's like a real blank, it's not often that I do draw blanks. Sometimes I might find it hard to read for a person. And I always say that. I always say that I found this reading really difficult to get the answers with, because sometimes the client's energies that they want to know what's going on, but they don't really. They're scared to know what's going on. So they kind of hold back, and if that, you can feel that in the energy when you read for someone, even though it's online, you can actually feel that it's a little bit of a barrier that you have to get through. So I always mention that I found it extremely difficult to do this reading. I found it hard, and they always come back and said, oh, I'm so glad that you said that, because this and this and this or whatever. And it's always good to be totally honest. So if you're finding it hard to read for a client, you can just scoop up the cards, reshuffle, and ask the question again. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing it. And I've done that myself, so there's nothing wrong with doing it. And sometimes, now you're lucky if you are face-to-face, you can say to your client, look, I'm really not picking up on anything. Are you being open? Is there something that's really bothering you that you don't want to, that you're hesitant to discuss with me? And, and go from there. Usually if you say something like that, they'll sigh and they'll relax a bit more, because you've picked up that they're not too sure of the question that they want to ask, or they want to ask something but they're holding back because they're a little bit frightened. So there's nothing wrong when you draw a blank with asking your client for some more confirmation. For me, if it's drawing a blank, usually I do reshuffle and do it again. But if it's really something that doesn't make sense to me, so if I'm reading that question and I'm done the spread and I think, God, this is not really making sense, I do ask the question. So George has set it up that we can actually type in a question, and we can even reject a reading if it's not something that we feel comfortable reading on, which is another point that I want to bring up as well. You're going to have to set up boundaries on the type of questions that you're willing to answer. So for myself, I will not answer any health questions, whether that's physical health, mental health, anything at all to do with health. I do not answer. And I also don't answer love questions. And by that, I mean the ones like, should I have an affair, which I have had a lady ask me once. Should she have an affair with her neighbour, for goodness sake? Does he or she love me? Things of that nature I don't answer. And I clearly state that on my profile, on my Future Me profile, I say that I won't answer them type of questions. And if you've got a website, you're going to have to make sure that you have clear boundaries on what you do not want to answer, what you're willing to answer and what you're not willing to answer, because every tarot reader is different. Some people don't like to do third-party readings, and by third-party readings I mean reading about somebody else, which I'm quite happy to do. So I do, actually, the majority of my readings are third-party readings. Now, when I talk about third-party readings, I don't mean that if a client books a reading and says, oh, look, my work colleague, I think, got a pay rise. Can you tell me if that's true? I don't read on that type of things. I read more on third-party readings. I read on how this third party is affecting my client. That's how I read it, on how they are affecting them. So, I'm quite happy to read about their boss and what, if things are going on like that, So, there's a fine line with third-party readings. I don't do sticky beak third-party readings, but on how more or less they're going to affect my client, I'll definitely do them type of readings. For me, I have no problem. But for other people out there, you might not like that. You may absolutely loathe reading about another person and just want to read about the client and the client's issues. So that's fine, but make sure you state that clearly on your website if you're going professionally. And if you are someone who's not going to have a website, make sure you have that on some brochures typed up, even on your business card or anything like that. Make sure that you've got your code of ethics clearly stated on your website or on any paperwork that you're going to print out, if you're going to do market readings or things like that, or even have a banner, have something so people know what they're getting when they book a reading for you, because clients aren't mind readers, and either are tarot readers or not mind readers, and some of us are comfortable to read on issues of health and other people aren't. And it's quite funny because on the odd occasion, even though you do have on your profile what you won't read about, someone will always ask you a question that you're not comfortable, and I do have the odd health question come up, but what I do is I actually rephrase it. I write back to them and I say, look, I don't do health readings, so instead I rephrase the question and I ask, what can, say, Sally do to improve her health? I've got no problems with things like that, but I won't diagnose or anything. But sometimes, as you know, as the years have gone on, I have been able to pick up health problems, but I always sort of rephrase it in a way that's going to be helpful to them, not to scare them, you know. And of course, I sort of touched on this. A big thing is, do not predict death in the tarot. Even if you see it, don't predict it. Don't say, if you think your client's going to get, you know, is going to die, don't say it. You know, that's a big no. And everybody should know it, but I think I should say it. You know, predicting death can be really can just be an awful thing to do. You know, I know that I've had some clients that have said that, you know, another reader has predicted that they were going to die in this way or whatever like that. And, you know, and it really frightens them. And, you know, if you believe something enough, you can actually make it happen. You know, what you put out there can actually come back to you. Never forget that. So I have seen death in my tarot, not so much in the tarot, I have to say in the Lenormand. That's the Lenormand where it's most clearly said. And if I do see it, what I do say is that this combination can sometimes mean a death, but that does not mean it's for you. It could just mean that you hear about someone you used to know in the news. It could be an old man in your street or something like that. There are ways of saying that a death is in there, but always make sure that it's not for your client. And if you are 100%, and I'm talking about 121% even sure that it is your client who may be dying, don't say it unless they themselves bring it up, okay? If the client themselves bring it up that they have got a terminal illness and they want to know how many more months they may have, if you're comfortable answering that type of a question, then by all means do it. But I don't really like to touch on death at all in my readings. I have seen them in my readings. I have predicted them in my readings. But I am very careful on how and even if I say anything at all to my client. It's a very touchy subject. So you're going to have very clear boundaries when you go professional on just how and what matters that you're going to read on, okay? You really do. I can't say that enough. You're just going to have to be very upfront with what you're going to read on and what you're comfortable with reading on. And it's quite funny because now when I do see death in the Lenormand, mostly because now I do spirit messages, I know it's actually a message from spirit and I can glean from the other cards what this spirit might be wanting to say, what message they want to convey to the client. So for a lot of the time now for me, it's not the actual physical death as it has been in the past, but as I've progressed as a reader, it's more of spirit messages that have actually, you know, come through. It is the spirit messages that are coming through for the client. It's very rarely now that when I do see that in the Lenormand, because I haven't really, I think once or twice I've predicted it in a tarot card, and one was just the Four of Swords fell out while I was shuffling it, and then my mother rang me and told me that a distant cousin that she had passed away from cancer. So, you know, these things do happen, and you have to be prepared for it. So think long and hard about how you're going to deal with the issue of death when it comes up in your readings, how you're going to go about it, if you want to address it, if you want to ignore it. You know, it's totally up to you, because don't be put off if you don't want nothing to do with it, because I'd rather not have anything to do with it. But because spirit messages are coming through to me now, it's a lot easier for me. It's more onto this way. But if you know, don't let it sort of freak you out. You're just going to have to really be upfront and on how you want to deal with it. So I suggest is what you want to do if you want to go professional is to sit down and write a long list of all these things that I've touched on, and state it clearly in paperwork or on your website what you will and will not read on, okay? Because even though you might state that you won't read on death, somebody will still try and book a reading with you and want to ask questions, you know. And people do ask, as stupid as it is, when will I die? I mean, why? I don't know. But people do ask stupid questions, okay? So be prepared for it. You know, you're gonna have your mind opened in and blown in many different ways when you become professional. You truly will. It's a very sacred, honourable thing to do. And unfortunately, tarot readers and other people who do any other type of divination get a really bad rap, particularly if you go on Quora and you read the derogative comments they have on tarot readers is astronomical. And it's because there's such a lot of fakes out there, which I've touched on previous videos. You know, there are charlatans out there, and it really makes it hard for us genuine people who truly want to help people in their lives do a good job. You know, it really is. So think long and hard about becoming professional, because it's not easy, but it's very rewarding. It can be a lot of fun. It can be mind-blowing. I absolutely love it. I wouldn't change it for a world. I absolutely love reading for other people. I truly do. And if you're quite happy and you think you can cope with it, well then for all means go ahead and do it. You know, now you can have all free. I mean, my website's a free website. I go on to, mine is free web store. And I just use that one because I did go down the road. I should say this too. I did actually go down the road of getting a hosted website, and it made absolutely no difference to my readings. In fact, I don't think I got one reading through the paid one. And my free website that I started up, that's where I get all mine from now. So the free one worked way better than a paid, getting one paid that was hosted. And of course, I have that set up on my Facebook page, so it'll go straight to my website. So that's how I've done it. So you might want to start a business Facebook page. If you haven't got Facebook, you can't do it, of course. And it's the same with Instagram. If you want to have a business Instagram, you need to have a Facebook page. So if you're not willing to have Facebook, then it's going to be harder for you to get your website seen. You know, it really is hard to get it actually seen. So if you're lucky enough to be able to read somewhere online professionally, that'll be a big help. It is for me anyway. I get more readings on my Future Me than I do on my own website, and that's purely because the advertising. You know, it's, you know, he's got an app on iPhone, so you know they can pay through the iPhone app. They can pay, is it the iPhone, the Apple app? That's what I'm trying to say, the Apple app. You know, and then we've got the website as well. So you know, you got to spend a lot. You got to spend a lot of money on advertising to try and get your website seen. And the best type of advertising really is going to be word from mouth. I don't promote myself enough. I just I'm quite happy with what I get on Future Me, but I do have, you know, some regular clients that always come to me, you know, outside of that Future Me. But it's not something that, I suppose I'm not confident in pushing myself, you know, like paying for advertisements and things like that. And I did go the Gumtree route, and I got some really sleazy people on there, so I got rid of that straight away. And I just purely go do it advertise through Instagram and Facebook. So I think half an hour is enough talking now about going professional. But yeah, the main thing I wanted to stress is don't do free readings, and really think long and hard about what you're comfortable on reading it, and make sure you have it, you know, very clear and very concise, and stick to it too. Don't let anybody try to talk you into reading for a subject matter that you're not happy on. Okay? Until next time, this is Tracy.